Warning! The root's on fire! You're about to experience the most high-octane, pedal-to-the-metal controversial show of your life. Please buckle up and hold on tightly. This station is not responsible for injuries. This is Wayne Allyn Root, raw and unfiltered, with America's favorite conservative rock star. Direct from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. What time is it? It's time for war! Here's your host, 100% raw truth, 100% American made, the warrior, Wayne Allyn Root.
Warzone Live, official podcast, The Gateway Planet. I'm Wayne Allyn Root. I was honored to interview President Donald J. Trump yesterday, my 17th interview with the most powerful man on the planet. This has to be a story for the Guinness Book of World Records. I'm going to contact him. It was also our longest interview to date, 42 minutes long. And as usual, everyone who has seen it or heard it remarked that it was not like any other interview they've seen with the president. It was more like two old friends talking. There were many highlights, but one part of the interview is the biggest development. It has the liberal media freaking out. Liberal heads are exploding as they realize my idea will win the midterms, and they are powerless to stop it. But first, a few highlights of my interview with President Trump. So I'm going to give you some highlights, then you're going to actually see it in action and understand exactly where I'm coming from. First, the media has not realized the significance yet, but I got President Trump to disclose for the first time ever his strategy in Iran, a three-pronged attack on the world's worst terrorist state. So if you wondered what's the strategy, and up till now maybe you didn't know, now we know. Three-pronged attack, and he laid all three out on my interview. Second, I urged President Trump to challenge in court the Joe Biden auto pardon of Dr. Fauci, or I should say the auto pen pardon of Dr. Fauci, indict this evil monster, and send him to prison for his many crimes against humanity. I said, you have nothing to lose, take it to court. What's the worst that can happen? I'll say no. But if you never take it to court, it's automatically no. President Trump replied, we are going to. I think that's groundbreaking news. I had incredible timing. Little did I know that later that morning, U.S. Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson would release texts from Dr. Fauci's phone proving that he knew COVID was dangerous for pregnant women, and he knew that it could result in miscarriages, yet he publicly said it was safe for pregnant women. At the same time, privately discussing the dangers. If any private sector CEO did that, and pregnant women lost their babies, in this case they did, lots of babies died in their stomachs, it could be called mass murder. I don't think it could be called, I think it would be called mass murder. Dr. Fauci has now been exposed as a baby killer. It's time for a Nuremberg-style death penalty trial for Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now that you know that he hid facts that killed babies, who would argue with me at this point? Only a sick-in-the-head liberal. This guy is the Joseph Mengele of our time. He tortured pregnant women. He tortured babies to death with a poison vaccine, and he knew it was poison. And he said it was great. It's safe. It's effective. Pregnant women should take it. They have nothing to worry about. This is a sick man. This is a serial killer, man. My timing was even more remarkable when it came to a topic few would ever think to include in an interview with the president. Remember, you have limited time in an interview with the president. Most of my interviews go about 20 minutes. This went 42 minutes. So I didn't know if I had more than 15 or 20. And yet I thought to bring up an issue that's near and dear to my heart, the dangers of childhood vaccines. Out of all the important issues facing America, I thought to urge President Trump to challenge the childhood vaccine schedule. I pointed out the autism epidemic may very well be caused by giving young children 72 vaccines early in life. I said the number of vaccines has got to be dramatically reduced. President Trump agreed. But little did I know that only an hour after my interview with the president, HHS Secretary RFK Jr. and President Trump would sit together and announce him signing an executive order reducing the number of required vaccines in the childhood vaccine schedule. You know what that's called? A 1 in a million bullseye. I hit the bullseye. But nothing compares to the liberal media reaction to my urging President Trump to declare a national security emergency for elections. This is something I created out of thin air back in March, and I've been writing about and talking about and shouting about from the highest mountains on my radio and TV and podcast shows nonstop for 6 months with the research of my election security expert backing me up, John Goodman. Thank you, John. I boldly told President Trump to forget the SAVE Act. Because has anyone ever told him that? I don't believe in any interview anyone ever said that. Because it's not passing in a GOP Senate filled with backstabbing rhinos. And even if it did, and believe me, I'm not wrong, it will not pass. And I've said this, I'm not a Johnny-come-lately, I'm not a backseat driver. I'm not saying it now. I've been saying this for 6 months. It's never gonna pass. It's a fantasy. Just get out, man. It doesn't work. Stop it. Drop it. You're hurting yourself. You're wasting your time. And even if it did pass, if a miracle happens the next month and it passes, it will be instantly blocked by a legal challenge from the Democrats. It's a lost cause, something I've reported to my viewers for months on end. Then I explained to the president my idea of a national security emergency is actually the SAVE Act on steroids. It's better. It will include all the same election integrity guardrails like voter photo ID and proof of citizenship, but with many more important ones added, which were left out of the SAVE Act and which are very necessary. And I informed President Trump he could sign it and implement it into law today without U.S. Senate approval. I said, you literally just jump right over the Senate's head. You don't need them anymore. I also pointed out that a Supreme Court decision, Chadha versus INS, in 1983 says a national security emergency cannot be legally challenged in court by Democrats. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress, which will never happen. Look it up, okay? My security expert, John Goodman, has studied it, researched it, studied it again and again, analyzed it again and again. You're not allowed to legally challenge your own. You can only overturn it with a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress, which will never happen. No one's got that ability to get a 2/3 vote. My idea will stop rigged and stolen elections by Democrats dead in their tracks. And Democrats know it, which is why they're hysterical and panicked. This part of my interview with President Trump was discussed, dissected, and debated on so many liberal media TV shows this morning that my head is spinning. It was the #1 topic on all the shows on MS Now. They should call it MS Commie. Liberal heads are exploding because they realize they can't overturn this idea in court. They can't stop it. It's unstoppable. And without cheating and rigging elections, Democrats know that they can't win the midterms. They can't win any election without rigging and cheating. President Trump, please take this idea and run with it. It's foolproof. Declare a national security emergency for elections and we win the midterms, period. To watch my full 42-minute interview with President Trump, tune into my Warzone Live podcast, the official podcast, The Gateway Pundit, right here, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. So that's this podcast right now. We're about to start the interview. We'll play the interview in its entirety. And thank you, President Trump, for this wonderful journey. 17 interviews and counting with the greatest president of my lifetime. So I'm a blue-collar SOB, son of a butcher, who grew up on a dead-end street on the wrong side of the tracks on the Bronx borderline in Mount Vernon, New York. These 17 interviews with the President of the United States are just more proof that things like this can only happen in America. Only in America, as Don King used to say. God bless America. So without further ado, here's my interview. Right. Be reminded that the interview was sponsored by VRA. This is the one sponsor who paid for the entire interview, this entire show. My show, America Speaks, last night with the interview in it, and my podcast today with the interview in it. VRA, Vertical Research Advisory. This is an alert for middle-class Americans, working-class Americans. Investing in stocks is not just for rich people anymore. It's a misnomer. And most middle and working-class people think they can't get involved in the stock market because they can't get good advice and they'll lose on their own. Kip Herridge left the highest levels of success on Wall Street to help mom and pop investors 23 years ago with his amazing investment newsletter, VRA. His goal was to help the little guy and gal, average middle-class American investors, hit returns like the rich guys do with hedge funds, except even better, even higher. And he did it. He proved it. Since then, his top-performing recommendations have beaten the market just under 90% of the time, 19 out of 22 years. Meanwhile, Barron's reports the average Wall Street money manager loses the market 90% of the time. So you choose. You want to win 90 or lose 90? If you want to win 90, go with Kip. But Kip's not just beating the market. He's often beating the market by a mile. His daily newsletter portfolio was up 35% last year, 35.7 to be exact, for those who care. 35.7% up over 27% in 2024, and up over 50%, 50, not 5, not 15, 50% in 2023. Can anyone beat those numbers? No one on Wall Street can, and none of you can. I can't. I'm a witness, right? I've read his email newsletter every morning in my email inbox for 23 years. Kip's my personal financial advisor. Every stock in my entire portfolio is recommended by him. I believe at this point I have like 15 or 20 stocks. Every single one of them is a Kip recommendation. Let Kip prove it to you for free. Exclusively for my fans, Kip's offering his daily VRA investment letter completely free for 2 weeks. Join now at VRAinsider.com. You have no risk at all. It's 100% free for 2 weeks. The results are one of a kind. Now you can win like wealthy investors on Wall Street for a fraction of the cost. So stay with them for 2 weeks for free. And then I believe you'll stay for life. Get your free 2-week membership at VRAinsider.com. VRAinsider.com. Everyone should try it out. No risk. What do you got to lose? Absolutely nothing. Just what I told President Trump about challenging the auto pen of Dr. Fauci. What do you got to lose? Nothing. It's already a pardon right now, right? So all you could do is win in court. If you lose, it's the same as not challenging at all. Might as well go for it. And then if not, you know what I say. I've been writing this for months that we should go after him on the state level. Republican AG should go after him. What are you waiting for? And they are. They are. And there's 24 Republican states that have the death penalty. So now, you thought I was crazy when I said that a few weeks ago. Not anymore. He killed babies. What would you say about a CEO that said, I have a product that is so safe, every pregnant woman should take it. Drink it. It'll make you feel great. And then you found out at the same time he was sending emails or texts saying, I'm really worried about what this thing could do. It could kill babies and they'll miscarry. Isn't that mass murder? Of course it is. This isn't a Republican-Democrat issue. All right. Without further ado, my interview with the 45th and 47th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. My 17th interview. Go. All right. Wayne Allyn with the President Donald J. Trump, 45, 47, and our 17th. There's the important number. Our 17th interview together. Got to be some sort of record, right?
Well, it's up there. It's a lot of interviews. You've done a great job. You have a wonderful audience, so I don't mind doing them at all.
You know, the big problem is I always say on my show that you are a guy who gets more accomplished in a week than the typical president does in 8 years. And I rattle off all your accomplishments every week. But that's me, and my listeners and my viewers know what you do because I tell them. But the mainstream media doesn't tell anybody about any of the great things that you do. And that's the problem. People don't know.
Well, it's a shame, actually. I mean, if you look at Washington, D.C., just as an example, I just saw a report came out from a liberal group saying that sending in the National Guard had no impact on crime. And yet Washington, D.C. went from the worst city in the whole country, just about, to the best city in the whole country. And I have to listen to this stuff, and it just makes you furious. You know, it just makes you furious. Stupid people. And they write a report, and Washington, D.C. is booming. Nobody was going before. Nobody. When I got here, the restaurants were closed. The place was a disaster. And now it's you can't, if you're a restaurateur, you can't even get a restaurant. People can't get into restaurants. It's bustling. The crime rate went down 78%. More than that, actually. You know, we get crummy reports from these people. And but think of that. A report comes out that Washington went from the most unsafe city just about in the whole country to one of the safest cities in the country, maybe the safest. And I have to listen to a report that sending in the National Guard had no impact. The whole thing is crazy.
And I'm a witness, by the way, because I came to visit you. My wife, Cindy, and I were at the Oval Office with you. And I came two other times, once for our mutual friend Lee Lipton when he became ambassador to the Philippines. Yeah. Sure. And so I've been into Washington 3 times in the last few months. And it used to be homeless everywhere, scary at night. And we had no fear. There were no homeless. We were out at night walking. You changed everything, but the media
we moved 5,000 people out. So remember, we had career criminals and hardened criminals and people that were allowed into our country by Biden. And, you know, the open border disaster where anybody, they didn't do any check. They didn't do anything having to do with, let me see your papers. Just people coming in from all over the world, from the Congo, from South America, from all over the world. They were pouring in, just totally unchecked, unvetted. And we removed in Washington, as an example, almost 5,000 career criminals or bad people. Let's say bad people, but many career criminals, many murderers. And some of them were so bad we had to put them in jails because we thought they'd come back. So we did that. And, you've heard me say this, 2% of the people cause 91% of the crime.
Right.
And when you hear that, it's a great stat for us because we can handle 2%. Now, if it was 90% caused 90%, we have a problem, right? But 2%, we got rid of the really bad ones of career criminals and murderers and took them off the streets. And then I have to listen to how, I guess he's basically saying I probably had no impact on it. And the other thing, it's a clean city. It's beautiful. The monuments are beautiful. They're sparkling. We turned on 38 fountains that were turned off for years, for decades. They were graffiti ridden, weeds growing into them, and they're all operating now. It's been an amazing miracle. We're changing the grass in the parks. People laugh, oh, he's changing the grass that's a big deal. It's a big deal. The grass, grass has lives just like people have lives. And this grass has been there for like 50, 60 years. And we're doing a job. This place looks so beautiful. I did it in Memphis too, by the way. The people living in Memphis will tell you, you go there. And I did it in New Orleans. I got a call from Jeff Landry, a great governor, and he said, we need help. And I did it in New Orleans. New Orleans is down 50, 60% already. Memphis is down more than that. And if they called me in Chicago, I'd do it there, and I'd do it in New York and Los Angeles very easily. But we have to be called.
Yeah, well, they're not going to call you in New York, L.A., or
no,
Chicago.
They don't.
You and I both know that.
You got to see Chicago's like a killing field. He doesn't call.
And there you have the problem. I mean, there you have the problem, President. What I see is literally a communist color revolution taking over the biggest cities in America, and it's really a merger. This is the big problem. It's a merger between communism and radical Islam. That's the Democrat Socialists of America. They hate Jews. They hate Israel. They hate America. Yep. They hate white people. How can this be happening in the United States? Never in my life have I seen anything like this.
The biggest change I've seen over the last 10, 15 years is what's happened to Israel and Jewish people. The level of they had a very powerful lobby. I would say you go back 20, 25 years ago, they had the most powerful lobby in Washington. Now everyone is, just large numbers of them. If you look at the House, it's the Democrats, but you look at the Democrats in the House, look at guys like Schumer. He's become virtually a Palestinian. And you look at what's happened there, it's pretty amazing, actually. I've never seen anything like it.
All right, so we've gone over all these problems. Let me give you one more problem, then we'll get to some solutions. But the other problem I see is the insurrectionist judges. I think that's the heart of this communist color revolution. They decided once you won for this term, right? Communist judges are stopping you, blocking you.
Yeah, they'd stop everything I do, and we've done well generally on appeal. It's very sad with the athletes, with what happened. They had a radical left lunatic judge who knew nothing about sports and basically declared sports in America unconstitutional. And they didn't appeal it. If they would have appealed it, I'm sure the Supreme Court, and now, college sports is a mess because they didn't appeal a bad judge's decision, a judge that knew nothing about sports. That was a beautiful system with, scholarships and everything. It took 125 years to build it, by little pieces. Women were taken care of. The fencing teams were taken care of, meaning teams that would normally be, have trouble. Everybody was taken care of. And now what happens is it's a disaster. I think Penn State announced a $500 million loss, $500 million in athletics. They're paying a young quarterback, like not them, a lot of people, $12 million. He's 17 years old, who they don't know if he's any good, but he's got a strong arm. The whole thing is crazy. And they didn't appeal. The NCAA should have appealed. That's the former governor of Massachusetts. Should have appealed, would have been an easy win. Instead, they're trying to piece a deal together to try and save college sports. And by the way, to save colleges, because colleges can't afford to lose that kind of money.
Right. But again, I'm more worried about the open border, which you have sealed, you have secured.
Yep.
It's in the best shape in
The
history.
border's not our problem. It's a lot of other
but when
countries.
when you see the Supreme Court ruling that birthright citizenship is wonderful and fine and dandy,
very sad ruling.
and that's our Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Republicans
very
supposedly
sad
lead
ruling.
6-3.
You know,
How do you
that ruling will
explain
cost us trillions of dollars over the years.
Right.
Trillions of dollars over the years. And we'll have people coming into the country that you don't want. No, it's a very, very sad ruling. We're piecing together some things you saw last week. I put together two elements that will take care. You know, they're shopping citizenship now. They're making a fortune. They're shopping it using birthright. So I hope I ended it, but you know, somebody will appeal it to a liberal court and you get thrown out and they laugh at you. It's a terrible thing. That was a horrible decision.
This is a good opportunity.
Was a horrible decision too, by the way. But I have other ways of doing tariffs. But the tariff decision, it was an easier way, but the tariff, you know, was an easier route to get to where you want to be. But fortunately, I have other ways of doing it. And that's one of the reasons our stock market is through the roof.
Well, not only the stock market through the roof, but let me tell you some things that the average person has no clue about. I just saw yesterday that since you became president, 1.7 million new jobs for American-born citizens, but we reduced foreign-born jobs by 1.3 million. That's a fabulous dichotomy. Americans get jobs, foreigners don't.
Nobody's ever heard of that number before. It's never been that way. And it's amazing. We're getting Americans jobs. No, it's never happened before.
Well, you get the credit. And let me mention one more that you should start crowing about. My buddy Kip Herridge is one of the best economists in the country. He says no one has ever seen corporate earnings like right now under you. They're up 40% year to year. In the history of America, never have there been corporate earnings and corporate profits, he says, as high as now. Now, that indicates that we're in a very good economy that could explode to a great economy. And they don't say a word about it. Nobody says anything about it.
I'd like to be the next president because remember, we have right now thousands of factories being built. They're being built and they'll be opening over the next year and a half. And whoever the next president is, they'll be standing up taking credit for what I accomplished. So people like you will remember. We have more auto plants being built right now than in the heyday of the automobile. We hadn't had an auto plant built in 40 years. 40 years, for many, many years, we hadn't had one auto plant. Now we have them built at numbers. During the heyday, they couldn't compete with these numbers. Many other plants too. They're all coming in. And that's because of a few things. It's because of the cut in taxes, but it's really because of tariffs. If you want to sell automobiles, you have to build the automobile in America, which is so simple. It's just amazing. And I watch these stupid economists get up. Well, we don't know if this is a good thing for America, you know. So they're coming in from Germany. They're coming in from South Korea. They're coming in from Japan, Canada, Mexico, who all stole our business. They stole 60% of our business. It's all coming back. Toyota just announced the largest plant in the world is coming into the country, Texas, coming into Texas. Largest auto plant in the world they're building. They're leaving Mexico. They went to Mexico instead of coming here. They're leaving Mexico. They're coming into Texas. Great.
Well, all of it adds up to
all because of tariffs. Because if they build it outside, they pay a 25% tariff. They can't do that. So what do? They build it here. And if 25 wasn't enough, I'd make it 50.
I was with you in Las Vegas just last week, and one of the things you said struck me. I mean, the reason that everything you just said is happening is because you've gotten countries to invest 19 trillion with a T dollars into the U.S. economy. Biden got less than 1 trillion. And yet again, nobody in the media talks about this.
They don't want to
There's
talk
no
about
way that
if
people
Biden
are investing
did less than 1 trillion in 4 years.
Less than 1 trillion.
I did 19.2 trillion investment into our country. 19.2 in 12 months.
And that's why corporate earnings are up 40%.
That's only in the first year.
That's why corporate earnings are up 40%. In other words, it's trickling down to the corporations, and soon it'll be trickling down. I built one of the greatest machines in history, and nobody will talk about it. Right. Well, again, remember, when Joe Biden was president, things were horrible, and the media claimed everything was great, and they never questioned anything he said. Now that everything's good... What he did to us in so many ways,
And by the way, they talk about munitions, and we're fine with munitions. We're having to do with, we're fine. But the reason it would be lower, and we're building them like crazy, but the reason it's low is because he gave $300 billion worth to Ukraine. He gave them all. He gave,
Right.
They never mention that. They never like to mention that. Now, I give to Ukraine also, but they have to pay, meaning the European Union. I don't do Ukraine. I give it to the European Union. They have money, and they pay top dollar. They pay full dollar. I don't want to say top because, I'm not looking to pay top. But we sell munitions, we sell fighters, we sell everything to the European Union, and they do what they want. They give it to Ukraine. But Biden gave numbers away that were just crazy. When I left, pre-Biden, I left, the cupboards were totally full. He emptied the cupboards largely.
Right.
That's about it's not the way we spent in if you look in Iran. It was very little by comparison. The tremendous, and he didn't replace them. But now we're replacing them at record numbers, and we're getting back up. But I have to tell you, nobody ever mentions the fact that I gave him every warehouse. We had to take additional warehouses because here's another story. In 2016, when I came in and a general told me, good general, said, sir, we have very little ammunition. I said, you got to be kidding. What's that all about? And we had a couple of potential conflicts on the way, by the way, which I said, well, I guess we're not going to do that. But we had a potential conflict. He said, we don't have, because what happened, and that was a different thing. Obama didn't want to spend any money on the military. So when I got in, we had very little. Now I come in a second time, and Biden gave so much of it away to Ukraine. But we're rebuilding it fast. We have plenty.
Well, he also gave away the strategic oil reserve. He wanted to make sure he lowered oil prices that were exploding, and he did that, which was a big mistake.
He
and
gave
don't forget
away,
one thing.
I was almost topped out with the oil, but we'll fill that up again fast. We'll fill it. That wasn't meant for getting prices down for the automobile so you get a vote, which didn't work because he used it like crazy, and in the end, the people voted for me in a landslide. But they use that for election purposes. That's supposed to be used in time of war. You know that. That's why they call it
emergency only. Right. And don't forget, I think one thing.
At the lowest point. They brought it down to the lowest point in history. But we'll build it back up.
I think one thing you should stress more often. Look, there is still inflation, but it's Biden's inflation.
That's
so
right.
when people see these inflation,
did you see the chart that came in yesterday? I'm the lowest of the last 10 presidents on inflation. I mean, it's crazy. It's a chart. And Biden, by the way, was highest. Well, it's not only inflation. I inherited high prices. And then the day I got in, the reporters started saying, what are you going to do about affordability? Like it was my fault. I said, I've only been here one day. Remember, they hit me with eggs. I said, what about eggs? He said, well, it's up 4 times. I said, this is my first day in office. Give me a break, right? Remember that famous news conference where they're saying, what are you going to do about eggs? I said, hey, I just got here. And by the way, eggs are now down to lower than they were in my administration. But I brought the pricing down. And as soon as the Iran war ends, you call it a war, call it a military conflict. But as soon as it ends, you'll see oil prices. And by the way, oil prices are low anyway. Just so you understand, oil is lower than it was during the Biden administration. And I stopped them from having a nuclear weapon. Because if I didn't do what I did, they would right now have a nuclear weapon, and you would be addressing them as sir. You would call them sir. It's one of those things.
All right, so this gives me a chance to ask a question. You brought up the Iran war. I'm reading today that we've kind of changed our strategy. It's not going to be bomb, bomb, bomb. It's going to be just starve them out at this point with a naval blockade. And their commerce is dead. Yeah,
I don't talk about strategy. Why should I talk something? Maybe, but we have 3 powerful strategies. We could just keep it along, and they're going to fail. We could just keep, doing sort of just like nice and easy, relax. Like I said, I'm sort of negotiating. You see, they're very devious negotiators because they'll agree to something, then they'll go out and tell the press that they never agreed to it. No, they're very dishonest people. So we have 3 strategies. Do what I'm doing now, just bop along. And look how bad they're doing because the nations, they've got 300% inflation. They have no value. Their currency has almost no value. They have they're not paying their soldiers. Their soldiers are leaving. So just keep that going because that's not sustainable. Hit them really, really hard, or really the third is just beat them economically. But we're doing that anyway. That's sort of a part of the first step. So economically, they are a mess. They can't borrow money. We control their money, what they had, which is a lot. They had a lot. And we have total control of it. I'm their banker. I am their banker.
So here we are in September, and the Iran war is still, or conflict is still ongoing. Tell me how we're going to win the midterms. There's the billion-dollar question.
I'm in this thing for one primary reason, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So now they can.
Right.
You know, I hit them with the B-2s. A very important thing, the JCPOA, that's the Obama nuclear disaster, the deal he made. They would have had a nuclear weapon 5 years ago if I didn't terminate that. So that was a big move. But that was in my first administration, which, by the way, had the best economy in the history of any president. Now, my new one, this one is better, but nobody wants to write about it. This one has a chance to be better than any country ever in the world. Look at how we gained on China. I mean, we are way ahead of China. Nobody thought that was possible. Remember that China was going to catch us in 2018 because of my first administration. That didn't happen. Then they said by 2020, 2022. Well, we are so far ahead. We're leaps and bounds, above everybody. I got rid of the windmill stuff. I got rid of all the environmental crap that was killing other countries all over the world. You know, the windmills. You know who makes the windmills? China. They don't use them, but they make them. They make them. I said, how many wind plants are in China? They're trying to think. They're looking around. They have 1 or 2 demonstration plants. Like, here's what they look like. But they don't use them because they're no good. You know, they're very expensive. And they produce bad energy, very expensive. Most expensive thing. They ruin the neighborhood. It's amazing when the environmentalists wind. And they ruin your site. They ruin the birds. All the birds are dead. You want to see a bird graveyard? Go under a windmill sometime, and you'll see thousands of dead birds.
And the media will never say a word.
They love it.
And the media will never say a word.
They love wind. You know, we love wind.
All right, so let's segue to the midterm. Listen, this is the whole ball of wax, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole kitchen sink. We got to win the midterm because otherwise the last 2 years of your presidency, you and I both know you're not going to be able to pass anything. We got to win. So what's the strategy to win the midterm?
Well, one thing is the Senate has to get going on Save America. I really believe that because people expect that to happen, and it has to happen. And you have a couple of Republicans who aren't voting for it, a few. You know, it's about an 89% issue with the overall population, including Democrats. Save America is voter ID with photo, by the way. You know, it's nice to have they're fighting on the photo. We don't want a photo. Now, why don't they want? Because they want to cheat. You know, it's very simple. There's only one reason. But we want to have that. We want to have proof of citizenship. So it'd be nice to say, yes, I'm a citizen. Here's my citizenship. Proof of citizenship. And ideally, but we're not even stressing this because that's only a 79% issue. You know, that's not in the 90s. The mail-in ballots are so corrupt. You know that.
Right.
They're so corrupt. You saw it in California a couple of weeks ago when Spencer Pratt had a very substantial lead. And the election kept going on and on, going on for weeks. It might still be going on, actually. But all of a sudden, you hear a report that the woman that nobody ever heard of is surging. Nobody ever heard of her. She's surging. And she took
Well, she was crying.
Spot.
She was crying on election night because she lost. She was crying. She thought she lost. Then they interjected all the ballots. She won. She had no idea.
California is one of the most corrupt places for elections. They do like 38 million ballots without a voter booth, everything. And Democrats get 5, 6, 7 ballots. Then Republicans get none. They have to call in for their ballot. The whole thing is so crazy. You know, Republicans, and a lot of people don't want to call in. You know, they're not that much into it like we are, right? You know, we're into it. But the guys, you know, they don't know how to get a ballot. They don't get a ballot. Republican areas have a hard time getting a ballot. Nobody ever talks about that. in California. But the Democrats, I mean, my record is 11. That's the record. Somebody said 11. They had 11. And you know what? They'll send them in, too. They don't care. It's the Wild West.
Let me suggest something. Because you and I both know that the Save America Act may very well not pass. And if it does pass, then you've got immediate legal challenge by the Democrats, and it won't be in place for the midterms, even if it passes. And with all these GOP senators, I doubt it's going to pass. Challenge,
because when you pass it in Congress, that sort of ends all challenges, So there will.
But we can't assume. We can't assume.
If you get it passed, it's going to be a big thing.
But we're not going to assume
even if you said for the future. You got to have it passed. You got to have voter identification,
right?
And you got to have proof of citizenship. I mean, who would fight that?
So my
we have a couple of Republicans that are against that. Can you believe it?
It's impossible to
now,
believe.
the House has passed it 5 times. Mike Johnson is fantastic, by the way. He does a great job.
Yes, he is.
The House has passed it 5 times.
Hey, listen.
And sends it up to the Senate.
President,
where
this
it
is a
finds
Senate
to die.
This is a Senate that won't even they won't even pass daylight savings time. So it's pretty hard to get something passed when everybody wants it.
So the House passed it. So we have daylight. And you know what the big thing? People like more when the light in the afternoon. Okay, it's 65, 35. That's it. But what is 99, even 100% is people hate changing their clocks all the time.
Right. Correct.
I was late. I was an hour late for an appointment, a big one with a big person from a big country. I was an hour late. I walk in, sir, you're quite late. I said, what are you talking about? Oh, it's you forgot to spring forward or fall back.
But the Senate won't
it has
even
an impact on crime, because when you allow more light, because criminals sleep late, they do their crime in the evening, so the light gives you. But there are a lot of reasons. But if you even if you don't, you're like, some people like a little light in the morning. I don't know why. I'd rather have the light in the afternoon. Good for sports, good for crime, good for everything. But that's a 65%. They like it the way it is now, in other words. We have more light. But that's 65%. What's 100% is nobody wants to change clocks. Do you know that what it costs to change clocks in this country?
A lot of money, a lot of time.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
Because you have churches and you have government buildings where you have these beautiful watchtowers, these beautiful things that have 10 stories up in the air. And they have to hire cranes, and they go up to change the clocks. But you have to do it by tremendous scaffolding. That's in order to change the clock. It's ridiculous. It's very dangerous.
It's ridiculous.
A lot of people get hurt.
So let me put an idea in your head, okay? Because it's so hard to get the Senate to do anything. Now they're on recess. They don't get anything done if they never get the Save America Act done. You have the right to declare a national security emergency for elections. And the Supreme Court ruled in 1983 under Reagan that INS versus Chadha, that if you declare a national security emergency as the President of the United States, they can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So if you do this in the next month, we will get photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots, and you don't even need the Senate's vote.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
All right, we'll leave it at that. So let me finish with a couple things. Dr. Fauci, can't you challenge the auto pen? You should challenge in court
we are doing
the auto pen.
We are doing
You are doing it. Okay, good.
What has to happen, I mean, I've become an expert on the auto pen thing because I'm not an auto pen guy, as you see. I'm not sure I ever used an auto pen, but I sign my name a lot each day. People like the signature too. It's a good signature, I guess, but people like it. But I heard stories where generals being promoted to a 4-star general, and he's standing proudly in front of the president, and the president takes the papers and hands them to his people, and they go into a room. They come back 15 minutes later and signed by an auto pen. And Biden they moved the general over. He stands in the back of the room in the Oval Office for 20 minutes with his family. Well, they send it out to be signed by an auto pen many times. But what happens is Biden will always say, I gave authorization, because if he gave authorization. So he's always going to say that because, he'll lie. He won't even know what the question is, but they'll get him to say that, right? So once he's authorized, once he authorizes. So the real question is, do you have to have it authorized in writing?
Right.
And the answer is probably so. So because he didn't do it in writing in any event. Okay. So they had people.
I would challenge
people.
I would challenge.
What?
I would challenge it.
Yeah,
and one other thing.
We're looking at it.
All right. And by the way, the other issue
by the
to
way,
challenge
if
it
that's
is
the case, there are things bigger than Fauci that you could challenge.
right. Right.
You understand that? There are
Yes, I do
major
understand
things.
that.
I mean, because he signed almost everything by AutoPen except one. You know what the one was? Hunter
What?
Biden's pardon.
Hunter
That
Biden.
one-
There you go.
Hunter Biden has an absolute pardon. Because
And by the way, don't you think?
A pardon is the most powerful thing that a president has. I mean, it can't be challenged, and it's good. It's a good thing. But when you sign by AutoPen and you haven't authorized it, it's probably not legal. So he will say he authorized it, and then it gets, did he authorize it in writing? And I doubt it.
And I think there's a second legal ground to attack the pardon on, because Fauci was not charged with a crime. How do you pardon someone with a blanket pardon when they've never been accused of anything or convicted of anything? It makes no sense.
I haven't heard that. But, I mean, that one I can't speak to. From what I understand, you do have the right to do that. It's, you know, it's preemptive pardon. You do have the right to do preemptive pardon.
Why would someone need to be pardoned if they never did anything wrong in the first place, right? So
that's true, but I can tell you this. I did nothing wrong. And And, you know, you can make the same case right there. You know, a lot of people wanted me to give myself a pardon. I had the absolute right to do it. Instead, I fought it through the courts and won. But a lot of people wanted me to do now times have changed because of what Biden's done. You know, he's done pardons for everybody. Although he's left some out, you know, he left some of his stalwarts were left out, but he's done a lot of pardons. But no, the power of pardon is very powerful.
Well, my hope is,
I chose not to do it for myself. I knew they'd come after me, not nearly the way they did. I didn't know that they're going to be, you know, raiding Mar-a-Lago and all the things they did. I had no idea they were going to do that. But I was advised by numerous lawyers that these are bad people. You should give yourself a pardon and save yourself a lot of trouble. And I said, you know what? I did nothing wrong, and I'm not going to do that. I did nothing wrong. And
yeah, well,
I went
Dr.
through
Fauci,
years of fighting.
I got news for you. Dr. Fauci did do something wrong, and we really need to go after him. And I hope, my hope is we can get him on the state level.
That's all being looked into.
My hope is, President, we can get him on the state level.
We have a lot of things. We have a lot of things that were done so badly that really was something. But boy, I tell you, the Fauci does have it has a big audience. There's no question about it.
Yeah, hopefully we get him on the state level. If you can't get him on the federal level, then let every Republican state go after this guy and make his life miserable to the day he dies. I mean, I just think he deserves it. He's
well,
a
they
horrible
did that
person.
with me. That's what they did.
Yes,
they did
I know, but you did not. But you did nothing wrong, and he's a horrible person.
Wrong. It took me 2 years to prove it, but I did nothing wrong. It's a disgrace.
Let's switch gears to another topic that isn't big in the news: vaccines. So I saw that you are someone like me that's worried about childhood vaccines, that they give too many. And I agree with that. You know, I have 4 kids.
Not too many.
They're all, too many.
It's too many.
Yeah.
Like the hepatitis B, which is a sexual, you know, you don't need to give it to a kid who's just practically born.
Exactly.
But with me, it's too many, but it's something bigger than too many. It's too big. It's too much at one time. They give these massive. Did you ever take a look? It looks like a Coca-Cola bottle. You know, it's like they're pumping this massive amount of fluid into a child's body. I don't care if it's water.
You know what the number is? 72.
And I want them to break it into 4 visits or 5 visits to the doctor. And I think that will have a huge impact. And the other thing is there are certain vaccines, you know, the MMR. Do you know the MMR as an example? If you give them, I mean, certain studies. So what do you have to lose? You know what I'm doing? I'm saying, what do you have to lose? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Nobody's going to get hurt by it. MMR. If you give them separately, the M, and the R, it's fine. When you put them together, they're sort of like a nuclear weapon, according to some. So why wouldn't you give them separately?
Why would you?
What's hurt by giving them separately?
And why would you give a COVID vaccine to a child when not one child ever died of COVID who didn't start with childhood cancer?
True.
There's no risk of COVID killing children, right?
I agree. And if you notice, I gave the power to the states, the federal system. And the Republicans often did, they were not nearly as severe. Some were great. South Carolina did a great job. The governor of South Carolina, he did a great job. A lot of states did a great job. The Democrats all put everybody in hiding and really hurt themselves badly. So,
well, you know why they did that? You know why they did that? It was never about illness. It was never about a pandemic. It was about hurting your reelection. That was the whole point, to kill your booming economy.
It could be, but I won that election by a lot. At the 2020 election, I won by a lot. The next one, I made it too big to rig. Oh, they cheated in the last one. They tried like hell to cheat. They gave up. The expression "too big to rig." It was that Kamala Harris used the other day. Did you know that? I'm watching
I didn't know.
Kamala Harris. She said, "We have to make the election too big to rig." I can't believe she used that. She got killed for that one.
I've always thought the single biggest reason Democrats are stealing elections, the way they're doing it, is with illegal aliens. And it's funny because I saw a story the other day that I wanted to make sure you knew about. In Connecticut, an illegal alien driving drunk and on drugs hit a cop, killed the cop's girlfriend who had 3 children. And it turns out that illegal is registered to vote and has voted in all recent elections for the last 5 years. Terrible. And I'm telling you, it's going on all across
Send
America.
Send me that information. I haven't seen that.
I will. That's how they're beating you. I'm telling you. In Nevada, where I live, in Las Vegas,
I won Nevada.
It's legal. They get a driver's license. If you give them a driver's license, they're automatically registered to vote at DMV. And once they're registered to vote, it's legal for them to vote in their minds. They're voting. Yeah. That's how they're beating
remember
you.
Something. With all the cheating, they didn't beat me. They cheated because I did great in the first one. I did fantastically. I did much better in the second one. And the third one, I made it too big.
You did even better.
The second one was influenced by, and sometimes you think, can you delay because we're in the middle of a worldwide epidemic, right? Can you delay the election? And I could see, how about if I delayed it? Do you think they would have gone crazy? But, I don't know. We never even looked. I said, look, we got to have it be done. But the cheating was unbelievable in the second one. But they tried to cheat in the third election. But when you mentioned like Nevada, I won Nevada despite all of and I won it by a lot. No tax on tips didn't hurt. But I won Nevada by a lot. I won everything. I won, we won it a landslide. We won 86% of the counties in the country. That's the most accurate thing because it's all broken into counties. We won 86%. That's why the map is all red when you look at the map. So
if you want to sum it up as we come to a conclusion with this interview, if you want to sum it up, if people are watching right now, tell them your feeling about the midterms. Are we going to win? Can we win? How are we going to win? What's the message for the midterms?
So I think you have to believe in the voting system. And I think these people want to make sure that they have a fair voting system. Because I always say 2 things, borders and votes. I did a great job with the borders. You know that for 15 months, not one illegal alien has come through the southern border. Can you believe that?
Amazing.
It's even hard for me to believe, but the Democrats are the ones that keep that score. 15 months. I've got 15 months. They don't even try anymore because it's so tight. And people can still come into our country legally. They come in through a legal process. That's okay. But they don't come in. What they've done to the country, to me, that's the worst thing they've done. But if you want to let that happen again, they will immediately open the borders. They'll allow men play, the whole thing, men into women's sports. I can't believe that's an issue. I love that issue from the standpoint of being on the other side of it because that is a loser issue for them. And men and women's sports, transgender surgery, all of these things will come back and they'll come roaring back. Plus, you're going to have a jihadist-run country. You'll have a jihadist.
Right.
This is
there's the argument. There it is. That's the argument.
A friend of mine said, don't use communism. It's because people think, with communism, you get things for free, which is true prior to the collapse of the country. I always say, you get things for free prior to the collapse of the country. Okay, that's what happens. But they say it's more accurate. The word, it's a jihadist. It becomes a jihadist country. Look at what's happening up in Michigan. Look what's happening in so many other places. Now, with that all being said, I think it should be good politics for the Republican Party. If they're smart, they would. But they should pass the Save America Act.
Yeah, Save America Act, or you should declare a national security emergency, which will get, to me, it's the Save Act on steroids. You can create the Save Act on steroids, and it'll be better for the people. I think the illegals are voting by mail-in ballot, and you can get that with a national security emergency. No more mail-in ballots, instead only absentee ballots.
Probably the reason they want these people, and many of them are criminals, as you know, 11,888 murderers. Many are criminals, but probably the reason they want it, because they're not stupid people. Actually, anybody that can cheat that well, like they cheat, is not stupid, okay? If they'd use that genius if they'd use it for good, the country would be so amazing. But no, they've got a criminal mind. When you don't want a photo ID, and then when the ID concept is passed, but they don't want the photo, they fight like hell.
Well,
why wouldn't they want the photo? Why?
Well, they want it for everything they do. Don't forget, Mandami wanted ID to get into his free grocery stores.
Yeah, or to snowplow.
Can you imagine?
How about when they had a snowstorm?
Snow. Yeah,
the only
they
people
needed
to
ID.
take is if they prove their identification. Right?
Exactly. Look, we all know they love walls. They love.
We're doing better than we've ever done. Our economy is better than the facts aren't being released because the fake news is just crazy. I mean, they're just crazy. But we're doing better. We have more jobs. Do you know that more people are working now than at any time in the history of our country? By far?
And they're American born. American born.
That's true. And nobody.
That's your accomplishment. That's your
accomplishment. I have less
accomplishment.
government jobs than we've had in 30 years. So if I wanted to have the best numbers in history for employment, I'd just leave the government job. I'd just say I'd hire 1 million people for the government. But
Well, that's what Democrats do.
That's what destroys a country. You know?
Right.
Exactly.
No,
I could get unemployment down. I could get it to 2%. I could get employment numbers the best in history. Just say, okay, hire 1 million people, and the numbers will go through the roof. I don't want to do that. Anyway, thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, President. As I always say, he gets more done in a week than any other president in 8 years. He is the GOAT, President Donald J. Trump, 17th interview. God bless you. We love you. We appreciate you. Win the midterms. Win.
Well, we're going to be pushing. I'll tell you that. We should win on the merits. On the merits, we should win 90%. We should get 95% of the vote. But unfortunately, it's not just about merits. It's about a lot of other things that go on. But we're in there fighting. The Republicans are really good people. They're doing a good job. They wouldn't do what the Democrats do because it's so wrong. You know, they're a lot of. And I'm not even talking about the Democrat vote. I'm talking about the Democrat politicians. And, you know, if we got some of this stuff passed, you wouldn't have a Democrat elected. You would literally have, because
I agree.
They're not electable with their policies.
Without rigged elections, they can't win.
Men and women, sports, etc. Their policies are so bad. Without the cheating, you wouldn't have a Democrat get elected. Thank you very much, Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President. God bless you.
Take care of yourself. So long.
All right. Bye. Number 17's in the books. I'm Wayne Allyn Root. That was President Donald J. Trump. We'll be right back. Wayne Allyn Root here with John Jubilee, owner and founder of the Energized Health program. When I joined Energized Health 6 years ago, it changed my life. Since then, John has been a regular guest on all my shows, sharing their breakthrough science of intracellular hydration. John, your program changed my life, and more importantly for me, expanded my career, and it became really just, it reversed aged me. It became my fountain of youth. And many people are now using your program along with the GLP-1s, the weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Mounjaro, and all of them. Explain how Energized Health is working alongside these weight loss drugs, a perfect synergy.
Well, how we do that, Wayne, is weight loss is one thing, but with every weight loss drug that there is, all the families of weight loss drugs, they also come with the weight loss of our healthy lean muscle and our healthy hydration, which is the weight we don't want to lose, right? We don't want to lose that and get sarcopenia or osteoporosis. So at Energize Health, we guarantee you will gain your hydration and you will gain your lean, healthy muscle mass while you're losing your visceral and subcutaneous fat. That's why it's kind of the match made in heaven, Wayne, that they don't get the two negatives that come with the GLP-1s.
Perfect synergy. Energize Health's protocol targets the root cause of many ailments and diseases and helps people get off their medications and lose their fat fast. Explain.
Yeah, well, all of medical science is trained to go after the symptom. So here's a symptom, here's a drug. Here's a symptom, here's a drug. At Energize Health, we don't look at the symptom. We look at the root cause. The root cause of 99.9% every illness and disease, one thing is inflammation. And just like when you walk into a room and turn a light on, darkness cannot exist. When you put intracellular hydration in a human body, inflammation cannot exist. And so that's why we reversed thousands of illnesses and diseases with our breakthrough patent pending science of intracellular hydration.
All right. It's a great program. It's an amazing program. It changed my life. I'm Exhibit A. Thank you, John. I've got a new TV show thanks to you. I'm being 65 years old. I'm turning 65 years old this July, and I got a new TV show unheard of in the annals of TV history. You get 40% off and go on the same journey as me when you go to energizehealth.com and just say WAR when you speak to them for Wayne Allyn Root. 40% off, and you go on the same journey. I hope it anti-ages you. I hope it's your fountain of youth. God bless all of you. Energizehealth.com, promo code WAR. All right, Wayne Allyn Root, Warzone Live, the official podcast of the Gateway Pundit. That was my interview with President Donald J. Trump. Hope you enjoyed it. An awful lot of emails waiting for me, and I've read just a smattering of them. I don't have time to read all of them. Today's been a crazy day, but I've read probably 100 plus, maybe 150, and every one of them loved the interview and loved the questions I asked and enjoyed our repartee with each other. So thank you, all of you, for contacting me. Really appreciate it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And as the day goes on, I'm sure the traffic will multiply, and a lot of people will get the message. National security emergency for elections. Wayne Root says it again and again and again, just like Trump taught me, right? I wrote the book, Trump Rules, about all the things he taught me in life. National security emergency for elections. He said one of the most important things in life is repetition. Say it again and again and again. Make America great again. Make America great again. MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Everything Trump does is about repetition, and make America great again is no different than national security emergency for elections. Trying to get that point across to President Trump, to his staff, to his immediate aides, to Susie Wiles, and to all of you. National security emergency for elections. It has a chance to change our world, just as my ideas, no tax on overtime and no tax on Social Security, changed the world, and really were the main reason President Trump was reelected. His entire reelection was based on three ideas: no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, both my ideas, and no tax on tips, which I'm sad to say was not my idea. I wish I had invented it, but I didn't. Can't take credit for it. Not my idea. But no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security were my babies. And I've given them a lot of good advice over the years, and a lot of it was very helpful to getting elected and helpful to governing. So I hope I've given them one right here, because you can say it's dangerous, it's scary, there'll be riots, liberals will freak out. Anything is better than losing the midterm. Anything is better than losing the midterm, because then we've lost America. Then Trump's presidency is over. He's just a president sitting on the sidelines doing absolutely nothing, and can't pass a single thing. He's a lame duck president at that point, and none of the MAGA agenda will ever be passed again. And then if you don't win in 28, the country's gone. All right, lost soldier oil, and that's why he's got to do it. National security emergency for elections. But, Critics be damned. Who cares? Lost Soldier Oil and Gas, sponsor of this show, headed by oil and gas legend Mark Bruner. His companies have created more than $15 billion in shareholder value at its peak. His company, Penteco Energy, grew about 100 to 1 for investors. Ultra Petroleum, about 1,000 to 1. A $10,000 investment turned into $13 million over 10 years. And he believes he's got the same kind of winner, maybe bigger. Lost Soldier may be bigger than Ultra Petroleum, says Mark Bruner. He believes it could be the largest gas discovery in the United States in 100 years. It's a 40,000-acre territory in Wyoming. It took 40 years to piece together. How's that for patience? First 4,000 feet drilled so far, estimated to contain up to 6 trillion cubic feet of gas. Yes, I said trillion. 6 trillion cubic feet of gas. Management forecasting projects just the first 25 wells to produce 400 million cubic feet per day of natural gas. To learn more about Lost Soldier Oil and Gas, go to lostsoldier.com, fill out the contact form. They'll get right back to you, lostsoldier.com. And yes, I'm an investor. Yes, I invested last year. Yes, I'm going to invest again this year. Last year was, I think, tied for the biggest investment of my life, and I want to double it this year. I really believe in this project. I really believe it has a chance to be the biggest home run of my life and to fund my retirement. So I believe in it. But again, I'm not an investment advisor, and this is not advice for you, because that's not what I do. I'm just telling you my personal belief, and I'm in this project. I believe in it. LostSoldier.com, LostSoldier.com. There's that repetition again. Trump taught me well. Trump rules. Trump rules of success. By the way, my book, The Trump Rules of Success, is coming out in Indonesia in the next week. That's right, the world's biggest Muslim country. Wayne Root's book is coming out because everyone everywhere, Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, wants to be more like Donald Trump and make money like Donald Trump. And they think the book's going to be the biggest bestseller in Indonesia. And it was all translated into their language. I guess you'd call it Arabic, but I think it's the the Indonesian version of Arabic. They have their own dialect. In any case, my book is in their language, and it's coming out, followed up very quickly, I think, by a UAE edition, a Dubai edition of Trump Rules by Wayne Allyn Root. See, I'm forever connected to Donald J. Trump. For good reason. He's been my mentor for 40 years. I'm headed on to the Steve Bannon Show right now, War Room. I'll be on in about 5 minutes on War Room. So follow me there, Real America's Voice TV. Steve Bannon, War Room, Wayne Allyn Root making an appearance, coming up next. And then America Speaks is coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, and you can call in, tell me about my interview with Trump, like it, don't like it, what would you have asked, what would you have had me do differently? 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-ROOT. Call up and talk to me live. Or leave a voicemail 24 hours a day like right now. 800-347-ROOT. 800-347-7668. I'm Wayne Allyn Root. Have a great night. God bless you. God bless Trump. God bless America. And viva my tax-free Las Vegas.